I'm not even seeing anybody unless you're speaking.
Yeah, there's a prompt, Ron, to change the view from speaker. If you touch the screen and you see on the upper right-hand corner, it says speaker, you can press gallery, and gallery will let you see everybody.
Philip Aubrey has joined us.
I just saw that.
And then just give it a couple minutes to let folks, they're continuing to power up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yep.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And here comes David.
Okay.
Got it.
Can you hear me, Pam?
Yes, yep. So
Ron,
Yes.
you were seated last meeting and Dave was absent, or was Dave present? I forget. I just
Dave, I
read the
think,
minutes
both-
and they're not
both-
right out of my head. Pardon me?
Dave was present at the last meeting.
I think
And
both were
seated because you were a 4-member team, right?
So both Ron and Dave were seated.
but Ron,
Okay.
have you been, has the Board of Selectmen?
I have heard nothing.
Yeah, so it
Okay.
okay. Give me one more
So-
moment, Phil, just so that I can have some of these applications ready to go.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thought I saw, pretty sure, where is he? Okay, all right, okay.
We're ready to go?
Mhm.
Very good. Thank you, everyone who's here for coming. This is the Town of Winchester Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting for Tuesday, January 25th, 2022, convening at 7:02 p.m., held remotely on the Zoom platform tonight. Present are myself, Philip Allen, Paul Marino, present, John Pollock, Ron Dew, Aubrey English, and David Carter. I guess we've gotten too big. I have to open that. Okay.
He's here. Yep.
Oh, there's Dave. Okay. David Carter is present. Officially, officially, Ron is due to be formally appointed as a seated member of the commission. David is currently an alternate member. I don't know. Do either of you have a preference?
Up to you, Ronnie.
Pardon me? Pardon me, Dave?
It's up to you.
Well, I know. I
It's
was
up to
just
Ron
asking
if
if
he
I-
wants to proceed or not.
Okay.
What
Well-
was the question?
The question is if either you or Mr. Carter have a preference about being seated.
Does not matter to me.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll just be arbitrary and I will have you, Mr. Dew, be seated for these hearings tonight. Before we get started, in case anyone is here for ZBA application 22-5295 for a variance at 248 Perch Rock Trail. If you are attending for that hearing, the applicants have requested that it be continued to next month. So to save you from sitting around until the end of our agenda, if you are here for that, that hearing, it will be continued to February.
To February 22nd, right?
I believe so.
It is, yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, just, so we don't keep anybody here longer than they need to be. That's why we dumped that announcement. Anyway, as part of the Zoning Board of Appeals, for any of you who've never had an application before us in the past, we are a 5-member board. Whether it's all seated or seated members and alternates, we have a 5-member board. And instead of needing to have a simple majority to succeed in an application, you must have 4 out of 5 votes to approve the motion. Motions are always presented in the affirmative, so just so you know, it may come down to if it comes down to a 3-2 vote, the application is not approved. It has to be 4-1 or 5, or a unanimous decision for an application to get approval. In the way we handle a hearing, we'll call each hearing by number. And to start, the applicant has the floor to present to the board their application. With whomever they wish to have speak with them to their application is fine. The board will ask some questions, presumably, or at least has the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. When we're done with that bit, we open up the hearing to public comment if there is any, and on the application. So if you are here to speak to a specific application on the agenda tonight, please, you can signal your interest in participating. Questions should be asked to me rather than directed specifically to anybody else, and then I'll forward along. It's a procedure that it is really important in person meetings, but in person meetings. In any event, everyone who is here who wishes to speak to an application will have that opportunity. And after public comment is over, the applicant has a last word, whether that's to answer anything raised in comments or whatever. They have the last word, and then the public hearing is closed. And once that happens, no further testimony can be entered into the record of the hearing. No new facts, no new opinion or fact can be added once the hearing is closed. Then our board will discuss whatever we feel we need to discuss about that specific application and vote. You will know tonight whether your application is approved or not. So with that, we will move on to, this is ZBA 21-5284. This is reopening a hearing that was continued, that has been continued, I believe, in November and December, for 205 Perch Rock Trail, owner Ms. Pierce. And oh, there you are. I'm sorry. Ms. Pierce, would you care to present your application?
I would, thank you. I hope I typed it out so that I stayed on task to not waste your time. So I hope it doesn't sound impersonal, as this is very personal, as you know. So first, I want to say thank you in advance for your time, volunteering and serving the zoning requests month in, year out, working long days and leaving the comforts of your home in the evening for these meetings. That's appreciated. Thank you. We are here before the commission today with a complete home plan to be most efficient and time considerate, since you have all these applications to face. I have visited the town hall, spoken with the zoning department, and asked many questions in the past year. We have lived here 3 years, love our location and views, and respect the protection put in place by the Highland Lake Region and Zoning Commission. My son and I live at 205 Perch Rock Trail with my 8-year-old grandson, spending parts of the weekend and sometimes after school. I am an only child, and my mother, who is 82, has come to live with us for the rest of her remaining years. This is an honor for us to be able to do this for her after all of her years of dedication to us and the community as a school teacher. When I purchased this home, it was with a different set of eyes, lack of experience living in the home, and not having been settled into life. I come before you humbly asking permission to repurpose the impervious areas, create a healthier, beneficial driveway for the earth around the lake region, and allow for ample parking, create a usable and safe backyard despite the sloping topography, and modify my structure to accommodate both my mother's and my disabilities. Recently, her macular degeneration has grown worse, to pull the blinds down all day in the house, and her degenerative arthritic back causes her to walk hunched over, looking at the floor all day. As I began to state, we are asking to repurpose the impervious designations with building out in those areas, going up to the existing roof line. We would also ask to bump out the front over the garage symmetrically with the front balcony, with a matching sitting room for my mother, equivalent to an inclusive in-law addition. I would move her into the suite and move myself into the back bedroom after extended, with a new loft above, divided from the current unusable upstairs for my grandson to sleep above in an open loft. When my mother moved in, my grandson of his single mother lost his bedroom. His father passed away 5 years ago, and his part-time residency is paramount for our family. This would only be possible by repurposing the impervious area in the back. Currently, 1/3 of that area is already a covered porch. We would like to add that we would be mindful of the neighbors and not install side windows to respect their privacy. This repurpose would allow for a workable kitchen, space finally for a dishwasher, as I have a deteriorating claw hand, which makes washing dishes more and more impossible. Create a larger bathroom so for a safe walk-in shower, and modify to an open floor concept so that my mother would reduce possibilities of tripping and would be able to utilize her walker and then a wheelchair in the days ahead. Therefore, the middle of the house is the only permissible area, and with repurposing the impervious areas, we would not be forced to endure hardship. I wish I had the means to rebuild my home as others have, but this is not the case. Lastly, we are including in the application a deck, as sloping in the backyard causes lawn chairs to tip and people can lean over and fall out of them and onto the ground occasionally. This would be a pervious structure, but would create a request for a setback variance. Not making light of anything, whether a deck, lawn furniture, or something temporary seasonal, we would be further out into the yard and into the setback area just the same. This has created an unusable backyard. We have plenty of tree coverage for privacy, which I have not touched at my neighbor's requests, creating privacy and coverage during the outdoor months. We would not be out there in the winter when the foliage privacy coverage is reduced. Before concluding, a fence application in the backyard was suggested at this time, since this began earlier, but we stopped due to conflicting instructions. In summary, we are asking to repurpose impervious areas, reduce the impervious percentage that was approved by for the previous owner, adjust the setback, which is already 1/3 present, improve the driveway, which additionally needs to be replaced from deterioration, define the driveway in a more aesthetically pleasing modification, and complete the backyard fence in an aesthetically pleasing design as well. The size of the property is a hardship for the variance request. The existing property is only 7,490 square feet versus 40,000 square feet required for the zone. This makes it almost impossible to comply with the building setback lines and not need a variance. The building setback lines are shown on the driveway site plan by Berkshire Engineering and Surveying. If you kept a building within the required building setback lines, the footprint of the house could only be 75 square feet. In addition, any addition requires a variance due to the size of the lot and building setback lines. The proposed addition in the front of the house is no closer to the property line than the existing house. The proposed addition on the west is only 0.3 feet closer to the property line. The proposed addition on the east side exceeds the existing distance to the property line. Only the back of the dwelling gets closer to the property line. The proposed rear addition is 31 feet to the back property line. This is only 4 feet into the setback. Even with the additions to the dwelling, the existing non-conforming impervious coverage is being reduced from 32.7% to 24.4% with the utilization of the permeable paver driveway. This brings the coverage closer to the 15% allowed. I wish very much to comply with the town's zoning regulations, live in harmony with my neighbors, improve my home, which helps add value to my neighbors, and make my property and home beneficial and usable. Thank you very much for listening and from listening to my application. We have Dennis McMorrow, who's an engineer with us. We have Brett
yes.
Stone, who is the contractor. We have Dawn Pickert, who did all the rendering. And Mr. DeCara cannot be here as his wife is having her hip replaced in the hospital.
Would any of your are they here to answer questions, or does anyone have an addition to your presentation that they'd like to add?
Yeah, this is Dawn. I wouldn't mind adding a couple of things. Having been in
Would
the
you
house.
give your full name and address, please, for the record?
Yes, Dawn Lee, Salisbury, Connecticut.
Thank you.
I worked with Ingrid on the design plan for the house, and she was very mindful of trying to not infringe on her neighbor's views or, markedly change the outline of the house. So it is a chalet style that does have some limitations in terms of roof lines and such. We've kept the roof line the same as it is, even while extending into the backyard. So even with the addition, I think from most neighbors' views, the house would look almost identical. There's very little change there. The size of the bathroom is dramatically small if you look at the plans of the existing. There's also a stairwell right in the center of the house that's very difficult to move without having an addition. So that stairwell makes it almost impossible to navigate through the kitchen into the hallway with a walker or definitely not a wheelchair. So I think that adding those additions will allow a much more usable space for kitchen and bathroom, allow a full-size bathroom for the entire family.
Thank you. Would the board like to ask any questions?
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one quick point, Dennis McMorrow,
certainly.
Berkshire Engineering and Surveying. I was retained to look at the driveway situation and Mr. DeCara's survey map while trying to lower the impervious coverage, the non-conforming impervious coverage, had suggested that we look at a permeable paver driveway. I went up to the site. It's a good candidate for the permeable pavers, being very flat, probably only about 1 or 2% grade coming out to the road. So we have drawn a plan. I submitted that electronically to Pam this afternoon. I thought it was an in-person meeting. I was all set to bring 10 copies with me tonight. On that plan, we have layers of stone underneath the concrete pavers totaling 20 inches of stone, using a 40% void ratio that would allow for 8 inches of rain to fall on the driveway and to be stored and absorbed into the ground to make that a true permeable paver driveway. That's it for the driveway.
We also, we're going to add that on the plan, it shows 26 feet. We actually want to ask for 27. That way it would fit 3 cars. And that way, if someone had to come help my mother, we also have the driveway. So there would be no need for anybody to have to one neighbor was concerned about parking on the road. We would have ample parking.
By adding the additional foot, which I'm assuming you would take, that it would shift over the walkway to the west
It would,
a little bit?
east side, there's a
East, rather?
retaining.
Ah, yes, okay.
We would have to slide it to the east because there's a stone retaining wall with the steps going up to the front door.
Ah, okay, I
Mr.
understand.
DeCara showed a small landscape wall 2 feet high on the east side of that. So instead of a 26-foot wide driveway, it would be 27 feet. Wouldn't change the calculations at all because it would still all be permeable pavers in that 27 feet. 1 additional foot, the wall would still remain 2 feet or less.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Colombi, for the detail. Mr. Marino, were you about to ask a question?
I was, for Mr. McMorrow, I've scoured the the engineering plan that we got this afternoon, and I don't see your, the graph or the table on it, I should say, with the pervious coverage listed anywhere.
Okay, the coverage is on Mr. DeCara's plan. John is the surveyor of record. He did all the calculations. My plan is strictly for the permeable driveway. So on Mr. DeCara's plan that was submitted with the original application, the zoning requirements and the coverage and the distances to the property lines are on his map.
Pam, do you still have that one that we can put up?
It doesn't look like I have it scanned. I'm looking for his email.
I could.
If you
Open
wanted
up.
to share it, I have Mr. DeCara's plan on my
Yeah.
iPad. If you need to, I could, if you
You
gave
can-
me control of the screen, I can call.
You've got it. You've got it. I gave it to you. Do you want me to send
you.
it? Give you another?
Okay. Okay, can everybody
Thank you.
see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Mr. DeCara's survey. And there's the zoning table with the existing and the proposed for the setbacks and the coverages and how he calculated them. Do you want me to move around at all on the plan?
I'm just taking a quick look at the rest of the table. So your only change in what we got this afternoon was just to draw in the permeable driveway. Was that the change?
It's to show the permeable paver driveway with the detail that I have on there for the layers of stone that would be required.
This drawing of Mr. DeCara's had a pervious driveway.
It had
Yes.
had it noted to be engineered pavers and to have an engineer design it.
Okay.
And the only
So
other
in
thing
essence-
that go ahead.
I'm sorry. So in essence, we are decreasing impervious coverage on the lot with the
Yes, from-
addition of further than it's reduced from, I should say that the the degree to which it's out of compliance with current regs is less under the current proposal. No, am I wrong, Pam?
Yeah, see the third column? Existing is, oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. I was looking.
Yeah,
at
it
the
goes
right
from
thing. You're right.
32 down to 24.
Sorry.
30,
And so that would be actually
32.7 to
slightly less if we added in the whatever 20 square feet of the additional driveway area. So that, I mean, just from the point of view of reducing coverage and other, non-compliance, that I understand that better now. The notation that I see about the shed, which I assume is the shed that's on the, in the rear of the property, I see it's supposed to be remove shed from impervious coverage. Is your intention to retain the shed as is, Ms. Pierce?
With this approval, no, I would get rid of it. It would be much
Okay.
easier. It would be much easier to have access through my garage, because if we were able to do the addition, we would be able to put everything neatly in the garage, which would be much more preferred.
Understood. Thank you. Any other questions from the board, please?
I had a couple of questions, Phil.
Yes.
Just looking at the drawing, I think it says, I wish the pages were numbered, but they're not really numbered on this drawing over here. I was wondering, it looks like there's going to be another set of doors on the front of the house. Is that correct, or is that the back of the house?
No, that's the back of the house. There's no additional doors on the front.
Oh, okay, and what would the reason be for the additional doors on the back of the house?
Just for aesthetics mostly, but we wanted to have, I mean, there's one door now. We would replace that with a larger door from the kitchen dining area out onto the deck. And we did add a set of doors from the bedroom onto the deck.
And then it says, it looks like you're going to have a proposed deck on the back of the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how large is that going to be in square footage?
I think for the plan, we drew it 12 by the length of the house, which I'm forgetting now, around 42
40,
feet.
it looks like 44.
It's
The
the
sorry, is
proposed
that the
deck
same as,
is 10 by 42.5.
Okay, so that's over 400 square feet, isn't it then?
420.
Yes.
Yeah, John, I know where you're going, and I think they are gonna have to return for a special permit. It's
Yes,
not included in the draft motion.
Yes.
So yeah, you're
Yes,
right
it
where
is.
you're going.
Is that for the deck only? I mean, we could consider narrowing it so it's not the full length of the house.
Yeah, it would have to be less than
400.
400 feet is your threshold.
Okay.
Okay, and then the
So-
other,
go ahead, John, sorry.
the other question is, just in front of the deck, it says proposed addition, impervious gravel is, what does it mean by impervious gravel would be a proposed addition? Is there going to be a house there, or is that's going to be part of the house, or?
It'll be part of the house. We're essentially taking the east and west walls back 12 feet
Mhm.
and maintaining the roof line.
Are you going to have like what kind of a foundation would that be under there? Just,
Well, we expect a full foundation. We haven't gotten into digging and making sure that can happen, but that's the plan.
John, I think that notation on the drawing is simply saying that they have impervious gravel there now.
oh, okay.
And they're
Right.
demonstrating that the addition is not really changing the pervious all that much, I think is what you're showing there.
Right. We're essentially putting an addition over what's considered impervious now.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and a third of that area is already a building. It's a porch, a covered porch out back.
Mhm.
Right.
So it wouldn't look any different basically to my neighbor on the east.
And how close are you going to be from East Wakefield Boulevard? Once, if you get a proposed deck, or if it doesn't look like you're going to be too far, that's going to be the back of the house, right? When you drive on East Wakefield Boulevard, you'll see the back of the house end.
Well, it sits
Did you-
down. Yeah, I guess that, well, there's a lot of trees and stuff, so you can't really get a clear shot of it, but
I mean, looking at the map, theoretically, there's a view, but whether you can actually see it on the ground is another issue. Plus, I gather you're installing a rear fence, correct?
I would very much like to.
Is that in our current motion? Doesn't it?
Oh,
Is it something that we would need I mean, if it's of appropriate size and type, it might be something that you don't need to come back to us for.
right, correct.
So
Yeah,
what happened is in conversations, I was told that I could have, and I've been down talking to the office about it, as long as it wasn't 4 feet and it was 2 feet off the property line. But it's kind of difficult because in the backyard, there's the neighbor in my back has a fence that's right on the property line. And I have arborvitaes on the east side, which I would really prefer if I could be a foot off of my property line, not 2, because there are big arborvitaes and it would make it difficult to clean up underneath them and keep it looking nice. But you know, what permission I get. So,
The fence isn't part of this application, though.
Correct.
oh, I thought I included it.
No,
No,
John, I just want to go back to looking at the map between their backyard and I'm guessing what would be East Wakefield is the property that belongs to Beach, John and Doreen Beach. So there's a property between her backyard and East Wakefield.
Correct.
They don't own that?
no, they do.
Oh,
John was concerned about your proximity to East Wakefield, and I was just pointing out that you have a neighbor behind you between you and East Wakefield.
yeah, and it's not really used. Mostly it's used for, there's a lot of trees. They usually throw a lot of their debris over there. Branches, wood, leaves.
Pam, have you had any negative correspondence from any of the abutters in that area?
I don't know how I would characterize it. I've had inquiries from neighbors.
We have
do
one
have
email that we
Yes.
received, Dave, but
I don't think we
Yes.
have anything on paper that has come in.
Yes, for the record, you have, that was part of this afternoon's email.
Just
I believe, but you haven't
The
opened
one
it up to the
person-
pub.
the one person who emailed with concern over parking.
right.
That's
Yep.
the one you're speaking
Yep.
of?
Mhm.
Okay, well, we'll read that into the record when we get to that point.
Yep.
Any further questions from the board for the applicant?
The only question that I had was again regarding the size of the deck, bringing it down to the 400 square feet or under on the rear of the house.
I mean, as I understand it,
Well,
you either have to do that or come back for a special exception.
Correct.
I would gladly support that, reducing it, if it meant that we could. Dawn?
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Then I think, let's see, where are we? Does the motion actually contain the dimensions for the deck?
No,
Okay, well, then I think the way forward would be to simply add a stipulation. If we approve the application, it would be with the stipulation that the proposed deck
Right.
be either reduced to no more than 400 square feet, or that you come back for a special permit.
Okay.
So, on the deck.
Right, that
Would
makes
it be
sense.
special permit or variance? I'm not, I
But
can't
it-
remember yet.
it's a special permit if it's more than 400 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
We would effectively
then?
approve the variance part of it tonight, and then she'd come back
Right.
for a special exception, a special
If
permit
she needs it.
for
Yes.
the 20 square feet.
Okay. Let's see, I'm going back to finding. Okay. Where am I? If the board is done with questions, I will open the hearing for public comment or questions from people who are listening to us.
And I'm gonna give everyone a prompt to unmute themselves and just so that if anyone is unfamiliar with how to do so.
Is anyone here to speak to this application? You could raise your paw.
You have additional folks that don't have their
I
video
can't
on.
see.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, would anyone care to be first, please?
Right.
Or should I simply read our email and go from there?
You can do that.
All right, from Karen D'Angelo by email, Karen D'Angelo at 206 Perch Rock Trail in Winchester, writing on Tuesday, January 25th. I am Ms. D'Angelo writes, I am emailing you in regards to the additions to the house on 205 Perch Rock Trail, Winstead, owner Ingrid Pierce. My only concern for this variance is off-property parking. If off-property parking occurs, this makes it difficult for other drivers passing down the street to get around parked cars, thus narrowing the road, possibly leading to accidents. And that's it. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this application? You can send a message in chat or speak. Well, if you're muted, you'd have to unmute yourself and speak up. Or turn on your cameras and wave at us. But going once, going twice. Okay. Well, with that, I will close the public comment portion of the hearing. And I will, Ms. Pierce, you have the last word to say anything you care to.
I just thank you very much for your time. And thank you.
Very good. All right. Well, with that, I will close the hearing on ZBA number 21-5284 for variance at 205 Perch Rock Trail. The motion to grant a variance from section 2.g.b.ii to the zoning regulations for application number 21-52844, a 27.7 front yard setback variance and a 21.4 easterly side yard variance for a 16 by 8 foot addition to the northerly side of the dwelling. A 4 foot rear yard setback variance and a 17.9 westerly side yard variance for a 44.2 feet by 12 feet addition to the southerly side of the dwelling. And from section 2.g.d.ii of the zoning regulations for an impervious surface variance of 18.6% as per the drawing submitted for the property located at 205 Perch Rock Trail. So the motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion among ourselves?
We should say something about the proposed deck, shouldn't we, Phil?
Well, yes, I think that what we'll need to do is simply stipulate that even though, I mean, simply the deck is mentioned in the agenda, but not in the motion. But we could add a stipulation to the amendment stating that any proposed deck must be smaller than 400 square feet, or the applicant will need to return for a special permit. And we can append that just officially as part of the motion.
I think the deck was motioned. Isn't the deck in the motion, Pam?
No, it's not. It's referenced in the agenda, but it's not referenced in the motion.
Well, then are we able to give approval for the deck with that stipulation, or does it have to be in the motion?
It's not in, it has to be in the motion, and I don't, it's also not, it wouldn't be a variance for it anyway. It would be a special application.
Well, no, not
that
for the
right,
side yard
Pam?
setbacks, because there's side yard setbacks involved in that deck,
It's true.
which is why I thought that was part of the motion.
Ah. Pam?
It depends on which way they diminish the size of the deck. If it's going from the westerly towards the east or from the south to the north.
But specifically,
it-
we've got to, can you put the motion back up, Pam?
Yeah, the way you're doing it, where you're appending your motion, where you're approving the deck as drawn, it's less than, it's part of your variance application, and it was advertised to
Okay,
include the
we can
deck.
approve
part
it
of the
as-
plan.
Yeah, it was
as the drawing
advertised.
it's
It
not-
wasn't part of this motion because of this discussion,
Right,
because
okay,
it
so we are
exceeds
back.
400. Yes, because it
Okay,
exceeds
so
400 square.
we
Yes,
so
so
we can do that.
yeah,
Okay.
you're
That a
you're
deck is
qualifying your
permitted.
approval. Yes, you're
Right.
qualifying your
deck is-
approval that you're only, the deck obviously can't exceed, you wouldn't change the configuration where it would create a non-conformity to what's there. It's that you would reduce it.
So effectively, we can approve the drawings as submitted with an amendment that requires the deck be 400 square feet or less.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
And per the drawings. So in other
Per the
words,
drawing,
Per the-
right?
yeah.
We have,
For the drawings.
right, it
Uh,
would get no closer to the boundary lines than what is depicted in the drawings.
right,
Yeah.
that's because that's what the approval would be based on.
Okay. So can we, so then we can go ahead and vote on the motion and, well, do we need to draft the addition, the stipulation?
You
And
did.
approve it
you did.
separately?
No, you did. It's part of
It's
your
on the
motion.
We have,
I guess,
essentially done so by-
Paul, you're okay with the amendment.
Yes,
Now you've done it.
Okay. All right. So may we have the motion again, please?
You want to read it again?
I just want to, just to get it clear in my head so that we are, the approval, it's a stipulation at the bottom.
And
Is that correct? Or-
Yeah, it's part of your motion, so I would, I wouldn't qualify as a stipulation. Any proposed deck
Okay.
must be smaller than 400 square feet or return to the zoning board of appeals for a special exception.
she's going to add that
Correct.
to the written motion.
Yes. And so that is appended then officially to the motion as we are.
Right,
we
so you just
will
want to,
shortly-
just move to
that
your
we will
discussion on the motion.
Okay. So we have approved the addition to the motion, the stipulation attached, so we can revisit the vote. All in favor of the motion kindly indicate.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? For approval and one abstention, you have your project, Ms. Pierce.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We will,
Thank you.
we will move
Thank you,
on.
Pam. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for investing in our town.
Thank you.
Okay.
And your mother thanks. And my mother said thank you.
Hi, Mom.
And stay healthy. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, thank you, to ZBA Number 215290, a variance at 169 West Wakefield Boulevard. The owners, the Olsons. And I saw Kathy was here with us. Do we have,
They're here.
are you here to present your application? Pardon?
I'm giving them a prompt to unmute. I'm not sure.
I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay, Mr. Olson and Mrs. Olson. Okay, would you care to present your application, sir?
Okay. First, I'd like to thank everybody for their time. I'm trying to solve a few problems here with this proposed deck. The house currently has a sunroom on it that is existing. I have no idea how long it's been there, but there's a sliding glass door out of it that leads to nowhere because there is no deck. The other problem I like to address is the house only has one means of egress out the back for fire egress, other than there is a door out through the kitchen to the back. There is a door that leads to the basement, but that's also near the kitchen. So I have no means of front egress on the first floor, like most houses have a front door. So if I were able to build the deck, you could see I have a set of stairs going to grade there that I would be able to come out the sliding glass door in case of fire and go out the front of the house and safely down to grade. I do have some pictures if you would like to see them. I don't know if anybody's been out to the property to look at it, but I do have some pictures I can share with you.
Didn't we recently have an application on this property, or is it
Yes.
just that the existing shed? Oh,
That was
you
for,
did.
no, that
Okay.
was for the garage in front of
Right.
the shed.
Right, which is what is termed existing shed on the plan that I have right now. And you're building out from that, as I recall?
Yeah, that's behind the house. That was already approved, yes. This is
Yes.
back on the front of the house.
Right.
But Phil, no, that
Yeah.
existing shed is there. What was approved and it's not shown is, just to straighten out correct the record, Mr. Olson. The
Okay.
shed that was approved is in front of what's depicted on the
Yes,
plan. in
yes, I
front of the-
recall that.
Okay, all right, just, it's
I
not
recall
shown
that.
on
I
this,
realize-
right?
Right, but
Okay.
all we're talking about right now is the current application. I just was reminding myself, because
No.
this is an unusual
No, but it's
layout,
a-
and I just,
It's a good
Right.
question
I just-
because your numbers that what's depicted as existing shed already exists, but you have a variance to do something else in the back there, right?
Right, that's to put a garage over the existing driveway.
So do your zoning table numbers reflect that?
I don't know, but
You know what it is? It was that your impervious surface didn't change
right,
with
Right.
that new shed because
Right.
it's going on top of pavement.
exactly.
So it's not shown
Yeah.
on your plan, but just know that it's there. And I think it meant, what did you need? Why did you need to come before this board for that shed? For setbacks?
Yes, because the existing shed that I would be adding on to is too close to the property line.
right.
Okay.
The grandfathered shed it was not suitable for purpose, as I recall.
No, that existing shed is staying there, Phil, just so,
No, that's what I meant, but
yeah.
it
So this
wasn't
is,
suitable
this
for,
is, yeah, this is where, right where my cursor is, that's where the new shed will be constructed, but what you're here for tonight is in front,
It's the deck, right?
Right.
Just the deck.
which won't affect the impervious surface coverage. It's just the setbacks, right?
I don't don't know if it affects the impervious because it's a raised deck.
No.
Yeah, I don't
On,
think so.
on Mr. DeCara's plan, there's no change in impervious.
Because there's grass under it and it will be high enough that you can walk under it. So the existing grass will stay other than some sonotubes for the uprights.
Mr. Olson, I made you co-host. You mentioned you had photographs. If you, I don't
Okay.
know if you know how to share.
You'll have to bear with me. I'm not that computer literate, but I will try.
So accept the co-host invite.
Where
Do
is-
I have to do this too?
No, this is just for Mr.
I
Olson. He's
didn't,
sharing.
I didn't see anything pop up.
All right, let me give it to you again and then.
Should I be seeing a pop-up? Because I don't see anything.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a green share screen button, but I don't see
yeah,
any.
that's it. Take that.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Okay. Okay, so share. Oh, I gotta find, okay. I don't know
There we go.
if you can
That's-
see
yeah.
those.
We can.
If I can, there's also a couple letters in there from the neighbors, the adjoining neighbors.
For this application?
Yes,
Okay.
so, I mean, if you want me to start from the left, I can make that bigger. Does that help?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, so right above that concrete walkway, you can see the sliding glass door to nowhere.
Aha.
So, and if
I
you look,
see.
if you look where this yellow tape is on the house, that would be about the height of the deck. So that you would, you know, the grass would stay and you'd be able to walk underneath it. And this is the basic outline of the deck.
The walkway that's in between those two little walls there, what is there, a door there or what's there?
That's the door out of the basement.
And what's happening with that?
Nothing. The deck will go right over the top of it because the deck will be where the tape is.
Okay, so there's just enough space there, I guess, right? For the,
Yeah, there's enough space to build the deck in between the sliding glass door and the other door. So there's a look at the sliding glass door, which I currently have blocked with a couch, so it's not a safety hazard. This is the view looking from the other direction. And this is looking from down by the streets and see that it will be no way interfering with the street. And there's this big bank here, so it's not like anywhere near the street.
Okay.
Do you have any more pictures, maybe like a complete picture from the road? Or is this just 3 pictures that?
That's all I have.
Mhm. Because just looking at the survey, I guess you're going to be like a little bit more than 4 feet away from the road with the.
No, that's 4 feet away from the property line.
From the property line.
Right, but the
And then
total
where
from
does-
the road is probably between 15 and 20 feet. But as I said, you can see there's a big bank there
Mhm.
that, you know, there's no way it interferes with anything on the road.
And what property line is it? Who owns that property then?
so John, all the properties that abut East and West Wakefield have that setback for, you know, what could be someday a future road. If you remember, we had another case where that
Yeah.
line went through someone's house recently.
Right.
Right, they've got an established taking line all the way in that area.
Mhm.
Yeah. But the road is another 15 feet probably after that line.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Is there a
Right.
standard measurement, Pam, for that?
Come again? For the road?
Distance
width of the-
between that line and where the road actually is there a set, is it 15 feet off the road?
Usually the width of the road is 50 feet, the right of way.
Right. So there's no,
Yeah,
but as you go
yeah,
around.
what is it,
West
20?
or
I
East
think
Wakefield, there's
20.
no dimension of what that line is. It's just however wide the road happens to be there.
The pavement, yeah, like it
Yeah.
might not be centered within that
Right.
50 feet right of way.
Yeah. I've looked at the property, John, and there's quite a bit of space between that line and the road, and from that line to the road, there's some plantings and a hill that goes down.
Right. I was out there to look at it and I saw it there and I was just wondering, did you recently purchase this house or? Because you
Yes,
mentioned there was no egress on it or anything like that and.
Well, I don't, the house is, I've only owned it for about 4 years.
Mhm.
I don't know if that was code back then,
Mhm.
or just they never got to build the deck. I don't know why it's like that, but you'll see most of my neighbors, they have a deck on the front of their house and they have a set of stairs that leads them to
Mhm.
grade.
Right.
I don't have that.
When was your house built? Do you know, Mr.
I-
Olson?
It looks pretty old from just.
Yeah,
taking-
the original structure, I believe, was sometime in the 50s.
Hmm.
Okay. Thank you. That was just idle curiosity, really.
Right.
If it was built in the 50s, especially if it was like what, pre-58 or 50, if it was pre-zoning, then they would only have to comply with whatever building codes were enforced.
Right. Like I said, it may have met the codes back then. I'm just saying,
May
I'd
have
like
been,
to
yeah.
update it, and make my house a little safer.
Like many, that front room was probably a porch that was closed in, sliders were put in, and the deck never got there.
Mhm.
Ran out of money. Okay. You mentioned, sir, that you had some communication from your neighbors. Do we have those letters? I don't find them in the
I'd have to
packet.
share them with you.
You
I'd
can,
have
You can share the,
or
yeah,
you can
I'd
email
have
them
to
to
share the
me.
screen again.
Mr. Olson, you can email them to me. And Phil, when you're done taking public comment, I'll let you read them.
okay.
Um,
Can you
I can-
forward those?
I can try.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. Like I said, I'm not that computer savvy.
That's
But,
okay. That's
I will-
okay.
I will try.
Okay. Well, while
mean,
we
I
are
could-
waiting,
You could read them on the screen. I mean,
read them
Is there-
from yourself.
off your screen, yes.
Are they signed?
I believe so.
Because when
The
you were
one that I
sharing,
could see a thumbnail was signed.
so what you want to do right now is load them up. Have them open, because when, and then when you begin to share, then you click on, you'll have an option. So if you open
Right.
it,
So if I do
yeah, like
that,
we don't say, yeah, that does look signed, but we don't see it, like it's very small.
oh, okay.
Can
You have to
can
open
just
it
go ahead
before
and
you
open
share
it
it.
up?
It
If
might
I,
be if you click
If
on
you
it.
double click on it, does it open?
yeah, it's open on my screen now.
looks
You
big on
have
your
to
screen.
share that screen. You have to open it first, then share.
Open it first.
So stop sharing.
Right.
Do you know how to do that?
Uh,
You know what I'll do?
Stop share. Yeah, I see
Yeah,
the
you got
button for
it?
stop
Okay, so
share.
stop
Yep.
sharing. Now double click on that document and then share and then click on it. So you have it, you probably have it large now, right?
Yeah,
And now, let me prompt you to share. You have it. Do you need me to prompt you, or do you see where you
yeah,
can share?
it's not there anymore.
Okay, one moment.
Zoom certainly doesn't speed things up.
No.
You should get a message right now.
No, didn't come up. What did I do wrong?
Is your email open?
No.
I don't know.
Is it,
If
Pam?
you have the,
Is it-
sorry, Phil. I was saying, if you
Go
have the
ahead, Bob.
document open, there should be a way for you to send it in an email to Pam. You should be able to share that document or open an email and drag that document into the email and send it to Pam.
Let's see.
And then,
Does it violate procedure for Mr. Olson to simply read the texts and forward them to us? Because we won't have,
I don't know with Zoom. Usually we're supposed to have everything uploaded, but we'll need it. You know, like usually if you come into, you know, the regular meeting setting, anything that you present, you must leave a copy. But
Right.
you know,
You can right click
well
on those
then-
and go to share. You can right click on the right side of your mouse, put your little
Yeah.
arrow on each, on whatever you want to transmit, hit right, and then go down to where it says share. Can you do that?
Well, doesn't seem to be that. I can do that though. Trying
Pam,
to
if
get
he was
out
to
of,
read it, if he was to read it into the record and then provide the copy to you tomorrow, and any
Yes, we-
outcome of this application tonight
If
would be
anyone-
based
yeah.
on the authenticity of said letter.
anyone has, if it's grounds for appeal, it's grounds for appeal.
Right.
True.
okay,
I think that would be the most efficient thing for us to do is to ask you, Mr. Olson, to please read the communication that you've had. And then in the next, you know, tomorrow, forward them or, you know, print them out and drop them off at town hall to Pam or whatever. So that we
I
have
may be able,
copies for
I
the
can
record.
probably email them to Pam after I close everything down. I'm sure I can figure that out, but while I'm doing
Okay.
this,
Okay. That will do.
okay. So first letter I have is from Ted and Virginia Hanson. They abut me if you're looking at the house to the left. It says, "To whom it may concern, we will be unable to attend the meeting in person, so we are submitting this letter in support of Jeff and Kathy Olson's application for permits necessary to construct the deck on the front of their home at 169 West Wakefield Boulevard. Our property at 171 West Wakefield Boulevard abuts the Olson's property, and we are completely supportive of their wish to construct this deck. We would encourage the board also to support them in this request. A good many homes on Highland Lake already have decks, and we feel a deck is an added plus for homeowners who have a good fortune to own property on this beautiful lake. Improvements made by property owners benefit everyone by increased revenue for the town, raising property values, and adding beautification to the lake area in general. Thank you, Ted Hanson and Virginia Hanson, and their sign."
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll try to get the other one. I can't seem to get to the other one, so. The other one is from an attendee in the meeting right now, so maybe he will speak directly and I can forward the letter after.
Well, if the writer of your endorsement letter is actually present, their direct testimony is far preferable.
Okay. So unless there's any more questions, I'm done with my presentation.
So,
Philip, I'm here.
okay, Representative Case, welcome.
Case 167 West Wakefield Boulevard, in full support of the Olsons and building the deck. The house was there when I bought this property, and I built my house. And when the trees came down, I did notice the door there and wondering why there wasn't a deck on the house myself. But we're in full support. It doesn't infringe on any views on anything. It just enhances the neighborhood and enhances the the lake. And if you actually come up here, as some of you said you have, there's a big hill, a drop off on the property in the front of that house, and this deck doesn't even come close to that. We all have that, and I believe with the right of way, Pam, I believe it's 50 feet from the center line. So it really comes into our properties.
No, because that would be 100.
Okay, whatever. We all have a right of way in there because of our sewers are right there anyways, and that's within the right of way also. So there's plenty of room for it, and if you get a visual of it, you would see that. And I just want to say I'm in full support of moving forward and seeing them get this deck and get rid of that doorway, that door to no way. Because if you come up and you drive by, you wonder why that door is there.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Is there anyone else who would like to speak from the public to this application? Mr. Ismayer?
I was just going to offer to share my screen if you want to see the street view from Google. I have no comment on the property, but if you wanted to see what it looked like from the street, I can show that.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
why
offering.
not?
I don't think. Pardon?
Why
Don?
not? Yeah,
Okay. Pam, could you let Mr. Ismayer screen share?
Okay, can everybody see that?
Gotcha.
So that's the view from the street. So just since you asked about it, I just thought I'd show it if you wanted it.
okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you very much, sir.
All right. And now I'm looking for the stop sharing button.
There you go.
Super. Okay. Someone was. Nope. Okay. Okay. So if there's anyone else who would like to speak to this application, kindly signal us. However you may like to do that. And hearing none, we'll close public comment for this application. Mr. Olson, you do have the last word, should you wish to use it.
I would just like to thank everyone for their time.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, with that, we will close the public hearing for ZBA application 21-5290 for a variance at 169 West Wakefield Boulevard. The motion to grant a variance from section 2.g.b.ii for the zoning regulations for application number 21-5290 for a 45.8-foot front yard setback variance, a 21.1-foot westerly side yard variance, a 11.5-foot easterly side yard variance for a 10-foot by 29.3-foot by 20.5-foot by 5-foot deck with northerly steps as per the drawings submitted for the property located at 169 West Wakefield Boulevard. Motion so made. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. English. Any discussion amongst ourselves?
It seemed to me that, given the lack of egress from the front of the house, that certainly would give us cause for the hardship.
Any further comment? All right, well, hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as stated, please signify.
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
sure. Aye. Okay, well, all in favor, no opposition, no abstentions. Mr. and Ms. Olson, you have your project.
Thank you very much. And again,
You're very
thank you for your
welcome.
time.
You're welcome. Okay. Excuse me. Moving on, and thank everyone. I thank everyone for your patience. This is a somewhat crowded agenda. This we'll call now ZBA application 21-5291 for a variance at 86 Birdsall Street. Applicant Mr. Zakurzewski. There you are.
Okay.
Good evening. You are welcome to present your application to the board.
Thank you very much. Good evening. In the form of an introduction, my name is Alan Zakurzewski. I live at 170 Shore Drive. My wife Liz and I purchased our home here back in 2017 and did quite a bit of renovation here. We moved here full-time in 2020 from Wallingford and now call Winstead our full-time home. We purchased the property at 88 Birdsall Street, which is at the corner of Cherry Street, last year, and we have been working towards renovating that home over the past several months. Some of you may or may not know it was a blighted property in the past. As I've heard from neighbors, the big yellow house on the corner. We've been focusing on a total renovation on the interior now, and we do have plans to site it, which I've heard from some neighbors. They're happy to get rid of the bright yellow. Along with the purchase at 88 Birdsall Street, we purchased the parcel of land next door, which is 86 Birdsall, which is the subject of this application. Before I forget, I did want to take a moment just to thank and acknowledge Pam for all her help as we've gone through this. This is not a process that I would normally go through, and there was a lot of back and forth with questions, and I do appreciate her patience with me because I feel like I reached out to her a lot, but she was great. In the package that I submitted, if I could draw your attention to the A2 survey, you'll see that on 86 Birdsall Street, there is an existing building envelope available for us to build within per the zoning regulations, and that's depicted in a kind of a lighter color blue. The property at 86 Birdsall presents a very restrictive topography that prevents uphill access from Birdsall Street. We have consulted with a local contractor and we've been advised that with over a 30% grade from Birdsall Street, it would be impossible for us to meet the driveway ordinance to cut in from Birdsall. Although we have that building envelope, we are seeking to move the home a little bit further away from the slope from that topography by requesting a rear setback of 12 feet where 25 feet is required. So basically kind of sliding the home to the left 13 feet to try to get away from that slope. An easement will be granted from 88 Birdsall Street via Cherry Street where the current driveway is located. We've gone through this plan quite a bit. It does provide for the least disruption to the land and the least impact for the site work. The proposed plan meets all other zoning requirements as far as front and side setbacks, impervious coverage, and building coverage. I'm not sure if anyone's been out to the site. I did enclose several photos. I'd also like to point out that sliding this over closer to the line does not encroach on any building or any other used space by the neighbor. The plan places the house towards the rear portion of the existing detached garage at number 12 Cherry Street, my neighbor next door. As I stated, we've enclosed several photos just to kind of depict the challenges of the topography. We believe that the plan's in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the regulations, and we're looking for approval to move it out of that building envelope to the closer to the property line. And
So you're in the plan, you've got a 3-car garage underneath and the living space above that garage, and you're going to be sharing that driveway coming in from 86, right?
Coming in
So
from
it's not possible to make the driveway jog towards Birdsall in order to get within that envelope. Is that your issue? It's just not possible. There's not enough space for that to happen.
Well, the issue is really the topography because it does drop off. So we're trying to move, if you look towards some of the photos depicting the lot, by moving it, we're moving it away from where it's more sloped off. We obviously didn't want to put it right on the property line. That's why kind of splitting the difference helps us significantly with dealing with the topography and the disruption. Because to answer your part of the question on the driveway, we would have to add in more retaining walls and things like that where that old patio is located. If I answered that.
So the patio is on the other property, right? On 80.
It was gonna be removed, correct?
Right. So
Is your intention to conjoin parcels at any point, or you thought about that yet? Like to formally join the parcels into a single parcel?
No, it's a separate.
Just idle curiosity, really. It certainly does make it easier to sell one or the other properties going forward. If they are not included in one parcel as they are right now. It's also a pain in the butt to go through the process of conjoining them, so.
well, these have been
legally.
officially separated. That you have 2 addresses here now. They're not one parcel.
No,
Correct.
they're not. I'd say, but they can, if one person owns 2 neighboring pieces of parcels of land, I think they can petition to have them conjoined for particular reasons. I think we had one.
Not if there's 2 separate dwelling units,
Right.
because then you create
So in other words,
nonconformities.
yes, one house would have to come down in order to allow that, which is what happened with another application in the last couple of years. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry for distracting. Okay, do any other questions from the board? Okay, well, hearing no questions from the board, I will open this hearing to anyone from the public that would like to comment. Ms. Grappo.
Emma, there you go.
Okay,
There you
all
are.
set. Hi. I'm Linda Grappo, and I reside at 18 Cherry Street. I speak as a property owner this evening, not as a member of any Winchester Board or Commission. I just need some clarification on a few items regarding this variance. 4 questions I have. Phil, do I ask one and then have you answer it and then go on to the next, or do I ask all 4?
Why don't we just go one at a time and
Okay.
and then I'll
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, the first, the proposed house seems to be in compliance with the zoning regulations with placement on the lot. However, And I wonder, is the rear setback and the side setback too close to the property lines for a house the size of 1,300 square feet? It's difficult for me to read the blueprint. It was, but that's just a concern. It seems like a large house to be put on that small parcel.
Okay, you may not have seen the plans.
Yeah, well, I do have the blueprint or the print here from Peter Keefe. That was in the packet.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's in the corner
So,
lot.
but it's, the what exists is larger than what is proposed in terms of a future structure.
Right, but the setback.
The setbacks, to place the structure anywhere but within the grandfathered existing footprint would require changing the whatever setbacks are applicable to that structure. So in order to enable a structure that actually will have less coverage on the parcel, we would have, in order to permit that, we have to permit the setback variances that are requested.
And just so it's clear, the only request being sought tonight is a rear yard variance, no other variance. It meets side yard as presented, and it meets impervious surface coverage. So the only variance requested is rear yard, just so that I think you said something, and it's not that it's not that the setbacks, just to be perfectly clear, this parcel falls in the town single family, and it's not that anything is grandfathered. This lot predated zoning in terms of size. However, given its configuration, it doesn't need any, town single family has very generous setbacks and coverage
If he was
requirements.
building within the blue dashed line area, he wouldn't be here tonight.
Right, and the only reason at least he's presenting is that he wouldn't meet the steep slope regulations that are included in the zoning regulations because of the cut coming off Birdsall.
For the driveway,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And to
He would
try
need
to
a
put the
variance
house
for a
over-
steep. Yeah, to build within the envelope, he'd be before you for a steep slope variance.
Next question, please.
Okay, okay, it's the topography. Okay. There is an embankment along the abutting two-family dwelling at 72 Birdsall. Is it considered restrictive topography? There is an embankment. There's no photo. I have an embankment on my property. There's a drop off, a slope. It's not as steep as the one going on to Birdsall Street, but there is an embankment going on to that dwelling at 72, which abuts Finn Street. Do you understand what I'm saying?
From my reading of the plan, whatever is happening at 72 Birdsall, as far as however their slope configure, whatever the slopes might be on that property, don't impact on what is being proposed in this application. Meaning that, if 72 Birdsall has a driveway that goes vertical up the slope to get to their parking area, that would have had to have been grandfathered or permitted sometime in the past. So I don't see that pertains to this application.
Okay, so any construction at 86 Birdsall, there's the embankment at 72 Birdsall, it's not going to be disturbed? Or there's no, that that embankment will be disturbed?
Mr. Zakrzewski.
No, there would be no reason to go anywhere on 72. It's where you can see where the property line is, and the building envelope is considerate of what would be the side setback. And as you can see, we're in further a few feet. I'm not really sure how far it is, but a few feet from where that setback already is. So on the property in the photos where the fence is in the backyard, the fence is, as it goes down, you could see where the fence is depicted on the A2 survey. We're not even going on the other side of the fence. And there's all that distance of my property before I get to the property line of 72.
And,
But
and again, that setback's not in a consideration in the application because that's well within the zoning parameters.
Okay, all right, then, thank you. So then the next question is the impervious, proposed impervious coverage. With an increase of impervious surface from 3,300 square feet to approximately 5,800 square feet, what is going to be the environmental impact with stormwater runoff from the new impervious surface coverage from 86 and 88 Birdsall onto Cherry, Finn, and Birdsall Streets? There are no storm drains at the intersection of Birdsall and Cherry, and the lot is at the corner of 88 Birdsall.
Is there a drainage plan in your planning for your driveway?
Not in the packet.
But I mean, are you planning? Just this is again, I don't, we're not asking, it's not really directly pertinent to the application, but just to have you gotten to the point where doing any engineering on that driveway is where you could add drainage or other controls? I don't know that would actually come before us in any event.
And I'm not sure we can have it as part of the record, Phil.
Right, I don't know. I know that driveway permits are required by the town from Public Works.
And the town is going to manage that. We have one task here, and that's to decide if this backyard setback is reasonable, given the topography of the land and whether it makes sense. He's not in a wetland situation. He doesn't have to provide the drainage for this application. And we've got to be careful what kind of discussions I think we have about that.
Okay. And I guess my last question was about the parking. With all the driveways and 4 standard parking spaces along the retaining wall, if they would be backing out onto Cherry, but I guess again, that's not the purpose of this request.
Correct. We're dealing only with only with 86 Birdsall, not 88.
But it's all one big driveway, one long driveway from 88 onto 86.
That's not, it's not some, I don't know if this whole project has been through P&Z or not. This may be a preliminary, the zoning board of appeals may need to make a ruling on this application before things can proceed elsewhere in the permitting process. But it's not our purview it's not in our purview for this application to look at those issues.
Okay, they were concerns, and I appreciate your input, and I thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Nice job.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to speak to this application from our public? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing portion of public comment portion of our hearing, and Mr. Zakurzewski, you have the last word, unless there's anything you wish to add.
Just briefly, I certainly appreciate Ms. Grappo's concerns. As I know she's aware, I've been doing quite a bit of work there to improve 88 Birdsall. We've done the same thing where we live now. And I heard, and I'm not sure who said it earlier, someone said, thank you for investing in our town. And my wife and I call Winstead and town of Winchester home now, and we feel like we are investing in the town. So again, we're looking for the variance portion of this, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close the public hearing on DBA application 21-5291. We're starting for our motion. The motion is to grant a variance from section 2.a.b.i from the zoning regulations for application 21-5291 for a 13 rear yard setback variance for a new single-family residence at 86 Birdsall Street. Motion so made. Is there a second, please?
Second.
All right. Any discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, so signify.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay. No abstentions. You have your setback variance.
Thank you very much for your time. And thanks again, Pam, for your help.
She is wonderful.
Here, here.
Oh, there's too much stuff. Okay. Yes, here we are. We will now call ZBA application 22-5292 for a special permit at 402 East Wakefield Boulevard from Mr. and Ms. Lippincott. Yes, Mr. Lippincott, there, you're unmuted.
Okay.
Would you care to present your application?
We moved into this house we purchased it in December of 15, moved in June of 16 after some renovation. And the house was built in 2004, and it had the deck was built with the first generation of composite material. And this one is 18 years old now, and it's deteriorated to the point that it's sagging, and I patched up a bunch of the rails just to make it safe, but the deck needs to be replaced.
Mr. Lippincott, I don't know if you've got the laptop maybe on your lap or where it's at, but we're having a really tough time hearing you because the laptop's moving around while you're talking. So if you could maybe put that on a table, make it a little easier for us.
Yeah, it is. It's on the table. Is this better if I sit back?
I think it's a little better now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sitting back. So at any rate, the deck is 18 years old, and it needs to be replaced. And if I'm going to replace it, I thought I should go for something I like. It extends. There's some. If you look at the drawing, there's a lot of wasted space to the north side of where the stairs go down now. That it's just wasted space, and so the proposal is to change the direction of the stairs, and that the stairs would come out even to a 3 Seasons room, and use that whole vacant space for deck, and extend. It would be an additional foot in width, and then extend another 3 feet to the south side. And then another set of stairs going down to where I keep my grill. So we can take the steaks right from the grill to the table. You can see on this on the drawing, you can see where the existing deck is. and how those existing stairs, all the room to the space to the right of it is just wasted. There's plants in there. So I'm asking for a special exception for solid height.
Can you tell us what is the square footage of the new deck?
504 feet, I believe. That doesn't include the stairs. I'm not sure if that was they were supposed to be included in the deck or not. The size or not.
Would you know what the square footage of the old deck now is, Mr. Lippincott?
I believe it's 380.
308.
80.
18?
380. 80.
Oh, okay.
So this map was drawn last year for I built that shed on the top of the drawing there. And at that time, I got the sonotubes approved in inland wetlands. And I had the chief locate a deck that I was, at that point, I wasn't sure if I was going to go through with it or not, but I thought I should have it drawn out rather than do it twice. And, so there it is.
So the drawing that's on the survey is the proposed deck as it would be built, right?
Not exactly. The corner there, okay, the stairs are there, but the corner I cut a 45 in it.
So it's slightly smaller than what was on the
Slightly
drawing?
smaller, and I believe that extension to towards the lakeside is like 1.5 feet, and it's only going to be a foot. So it's a little bit smaller than what is on that plan.
So what we don't have on here, or maybe I'm not seeing it, is what is the impervious change, if any? Is this not high enough, right? Or is it high enough?
Decks are considered pervious.
It is pervious. Okay. I didn't know if there was a height thing with that, Pam, but.
Yeah,
No
when that
change.
was done, when that map was made, I believe I had an additional 600 square feet that I could make impervious to stay within 15%. So, but regardless, that's not, I don't think that's a requirement.
Okay.
Yes.
Any further questions? Are you having to go before ZBA for this, or not ZBA, Lord, sorry, wetlands?
I did that last year when I got the permission for put the shed up. So the shed was not an issue. That was all zoned fine, but I had to get the wetlands approval for the sonotubes. So again, at that time, I got the approval for the 7 sonotubes for this deck also.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the board? Would anyone from the public like to speak to this application?
Just
Hearing
for the
none.
record, I had one inquiry from a neighbor. It was an abutting neighbor. I shared with her the plans and she was fine.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no public comment, I will close this section of the hearing. Any last words, Mr. Lippincott?
Is that from Beth Valentine, Pam? Because I spoke to her probably since you spoke to her, and she seemed to be fine with it. Yeah, she's right there. That it would affect her side if it affected anybody, but you know, we're still 40 feet or so away from the property line. After I put the shed up, I put in like 8 hemlock plants back there, trying to keep it as private as possible. So I think that's fine with it now. I sent her a copy of the map also.
Very
It
good.
really doesn't affect anybody. Again, it's about 40 feet from the property line. So it's pretty private over on that side.
Okay.
You know, if I'm
Thank
gonna
you
do
very
it,
much.
I might as well make it what I need or what I like.
Yes. All right. With that, I will close the public hearing for ZBA application 21-5291 for a 22-5292 special exception at 402 West Wakefield Boulevard. Do we have any discussion
Uh,
on
Did
the
you wanna-
board?
Do you want the motion first?
Yes, please. Okay, a motion to approve a special exception per section 2.g.v.iv.f of the zoning regulations for application number 21-5292 for a deck exceeding 400 square feet as per the plans submitted at 402 East Wakefield Boulevard. Given the slight modification in what's now intended to be built from what was on the earlier plan, do we need to revise that at all?
He does have drawings
because-
here, Phil, showing the
Yes.
change on the proposed deck.
I
Right.
know. Well,
So
does that supersede the A2?
well, it's actually inside the boundaries of what's drawn on the A2.
Yes,
He's reduced
that's why
that,
I'm saying,
so-
I would think that it wouldn't make a difference, but, you know, I'm just
It
checking.
doesn't, because again, it's not a variance, it's just special, sorry,
That's
I don't know
true.
if you're asking,
Okay.
just from a staff perspective, it's smaller than.
All right. Okay, so no modification of the motion is required. Any discussion on the motion? Oh, I read it and did we get a second?
Second,
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on this application, gentlemen? Hearing none, we will proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion signify.
aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
And are you agreeing or opposing, Mr. Pollak?
Agree.
Okay, thank you. You were just a little tardy there. Anyway, so your application has been, is unanimously approved and you have your project.
Thank you, guys. And I appreciate your time also, and your commitment to the town. And Pam, thank you for all your help on this.
Yeah.
Good night, guys.
All righty. All right, turning ahead. All right, now for ZBA application 22-5293 for variance at 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. The Tennys are the applicants. There we are. Okay, Mr. Tenney, if you would kindly present your application.
Thank you. Again, my name is Lee Tenney from 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. I guess I'll start by thanking everybody for taking the time as we're getting closer to the 9 o'clock hour. So thank you for taking the time out of your evening. My wife, my father, and my mother, along with myself, purchased this house back in 2011. And really, since the onset of, for the most part, gutting the house without changing or altering the footprint at all, we were very uneducated as to the rules and the regulations associated with the town of Winstead, and as such, asked more questions than we didn't, if you will, and worked very closely with Mark and the town to make sure that we applied for and received all the necessary permits to do everything that we were able to accomplish. One of those permits was to add a deck onto the front of the house. At the time, the rules were a little bit different as it relates to things like surveys. And as a result of not having a survey, Mark instructed us to go to our two abutting neighbors, Barbara Rismeyer and Steve and Gail Valagorski, prior to building the initial deck, to receive letters signing off from the Rismeyers and from the Valagorskis, which are on file back in 2011 at the town. The original deck that we applied for, with the drawings that we applied for that, was 31 feet by 15 feet with a double wide staircase coming off of the middle. If you look at the packet that I provided, this is referenced in one of the pictures of the original deck that has the flags hanging off of the front. Yes, sir. Thank you, Philip. So that was the original deck that we received a permit for, and we went ahead and built. Unfortunately enough, I have older parents. At the time, my wife or my mother was older and aging, since we've lost. At the currently, my father is older and 82, along with my in-laws and my young children, 11 and 14 currently. Unfortunately, because of the severity of the incline of the hill in the front, you'll notice with the original picture that you just held up, Mr. Allen, that the staircase comes straight down, comes to a second landing, and then veers off to the left. The reason for that veer off to the left, again, is because of the severity of the incline, both from north to south, as well as the severity of the incline from east to west. So that staircase landed onto a third platform all the way down at the bottom, and then you stepped off to get onto the secondary set of stairs that has been there, I believe, since 1904. If you look at the second picture, that references a new deck, which thank you, yes, sir, which replaced the staircase and took that staircase to go off of the original deck, but next to the Valagorski side of the property, to come down onto a platform, and then to have the new staircase come from left to right as opposed to north to south. With that said, I was unaware that there was a square footage of 400 maximum when I originally made this change. And the reason I was unaware of that is the original approved deck, being 31 by 15, exceeded that of the 400 out of the gates. My goal here wasn't to increase the size of the deck. My goal here was simply to try to maximize the utilization of the sloping hill, so that from a safety perspective, my children and my parents didn't fall down the staircase. When I came to the realization that I did something wrong, when I received a letter in the mail from the town, I immediately called up Mark and explained to Mark that the original permit that I had applied for, I thought that because I wasn't altering the distance from my house to the Valagorskis, from my house to the Rismeyers, or from my house, or from the end of the staircase to the lake, I was simply altering the configuration to make it safer, that it fell underneath the same permit. When Mark had explained to me that that permit expired and that permits don't go into perpetuity, I wasn't trying to be malicious, nor was I trying to be deceitful. this deck is right in the eye of anyone that walks by it. So I've been working very closely with Pam and the town to try to rectify this, to remove the lien which was placed on the house back in 2019. And I just want to say that it was not my intention for it to take this long. Unfortunately enough, not even as a result of COVID, but as a result of multiple iterations of a survey which needed to be done, it took this long just to get the appropriate surveys to meet the needs of the town. So my apologies for the longevity when that initial letter went out and the lien was established until we are here today. But the hardship that I'm trying to plead for as it relates to that secondary deck is less of about a secondary deck, more of about a reconfiguration to be able to effectively get down the stairs to a safe landing.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
On the survey, it shows the new covered porch. How does that play into all of this? Or doesn't it?
I apologize. I was going to address that after this first part. Should I address all of that together, sir?
Well, we have, because, that's right. There's a special exception next on the agenda. We can certainly look at both at the same time, but it's a little cleaner to do the variance first.
Okay, all right.
Whichever.
This, you can consider both applications simultaneously if you want.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so the variance, because if you don't give the variance, then
there's no point for the special permit.
Well, that's not true either.
No, that's true. Okay, so in our packets, we have the ZBA application 22-5295, which replace existing house with new house, same location.
No.
Same
So he has a special exception for deck, for a deck in excess of 400 square feet. That new covered porch isn't considered a deck. So it's a variance. Yeah, correct.
Right, part of the variance. So
that's definitely not the right one.
The application is, the variance is for the covered porch and the setback issues for this new deck, and the special exceptions because the new deck's now north of 400 square feet.
Right. I just am not. I was just looking for my my copy of the special exception application, and I don't find it. But that's all right, because it's in essence included in all the information is in essence included in the variance application. That would be pertinent.
So we can talk about the covered porch. I have a few questions on the deck thing, but to Ron's point, let's talk about the covered porch and get it all into the record.
Okay. Sure. So when I purchased the house initially, there was what I'll refer to as decking, if you will, but that decking consisted of planks of 2x4s in rectangles placed onto the ground, which was on top of some gravel. And at the end of the day, anytime that it rained, that would turn into mud. Again, I have elderly parents, or at the time I had elderly parents. Now I have an elderly parent on my side and elderly parents, plural, on my wife's side. When you park in my driveway, My driveway, albeit the fact that I'm at 203 West Wakefield, my driveway resides on the top of a private road known as Vaughn's Lane. So when you go up to Vaughn's Lane, I am the third house from the end of Vaughn's Lane, and you park up on top. You then have to walk down a set of stairs along the entire side of the house to get into the door, which I'll say is the front door, but it's located on the side of the house. Anytime that it rained, anytime we had inclement weather during the winter time, it was very dangerous, and on multiple occasions, both my father, my children, and my in-laws have fallen. So what we did was simply take that decking, which was laying on the ground, rose it up, and then covered it over with a tin roof. And that was not.
I'm sorry, with the existing porch on the plan, where the new covered porch is, there shows an existing porch of 10 by 4, 10 feet by 4 feet. Is that what you're referring to as your existing, the existing landing from that side door?
Well, the decking, which was placed onto the ground from the top of the drive down to that front door, you then walked up 3 stairs, and that's when it was covered with an indentation going into the front door. What we did was we wrote, by raising up that deck off of the ground, it now alleviated the need to go up those 3 stairs because it was at that same level. So it not only flattened it out, I mean, it not only covered it up from the rain and the snow, it also flattened it out to make it a smoother transition for elderly and young folks.
But off the house, you went out 6 feet with that new covered porch. Because there was nothing there before. So that new covered porch that we're looking at shows that it's 6 feet off the house. So am I correct?
The prior decking was actually further than that off of, but it was on the ground. We just raised it up. That was always there. In order to walk from the top of the driveway.
How high did you raise it?
On one area closest to the driveway, it was raised maybe ½ an inch. And all the way closest to the lake, it would have been raised 3 steps, 3 legal, normal steps.
Okay.
So all of that was on the ground originally, even down by the lake, as you call it. That was down on the ground as well.
That was always down on the ground. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you had boards that were literally sitting on the ground. You leveled it and raised it up and created this, what is called the new covered porch, because you roofed it. But all you did to the flooring was you leveled it and took it off the ground.
Right. I called it a walkway to the front door and then covered the walkway.
Dimensions, no, you said dimensions were actually greater than it is now.
Greater further from the house.
Okay.
But in between that walkway of pieces that were laid onto the ground and the house itself, there were hostas next to the house. So those pieces that were on the ground were closer to the Rissmeyers because of those hostas. We removed those hostas, moved it this way, closer to the house so that the roof can go onto it to allow for people to literally walk in the front door, which is the only access point to the home.
So basically what you had then was simply wood sitting on top of the ground that you removed and built a deck that is raised up from nothing to approximately 2 feet.
2 feet on the furthest edge, ½ an inch on the closest edge. Yes, sir.
Which is where the deck comes in. Before it was just simply wood on the ground. Okay.
Yes, sir. Wood on the ground, wood on the ground on top of gravel leading to a set of stairs, which were 3 stairs to go into the front door, which is that covered portion that
Right.
was originally there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Pam, I have a general question. Now that it's a covered porch, it's considered impervious?
Right.
We don't know, at least I can't, we don't know what the impervious impact has been, because this just shows us what the total existing is. We don't know what it was before. Am I correct?
Yeah, there was no variance granted for that deck, though. Like, I'm not sure. I don't think there was a variance needed. That's where, right. So we wouldn't have had a survey. So,
Right.
right, we didn't have a starting point, right? Because he said
Well, he
that
would have had a starting point before he built the covered porch, right? Because the wood on the ground, who knows what that was, and
it'd be up to the surveyor to
right.
classify it.
So we don't know if there's been impact there or not, I guess, because it's already there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That was done during COVID. Not that that's an excuse.
I suppose we could take the square footage and figure out somehow what that's done to it. It's pretty negligible. It's not that big, but can we go back to the front deck? I have some questions there.
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to understand. I see the original staircase and the original picture, right? You had a permit originally for all of that,
Yes, sir.
and whatever required approvals you had for all of that.
Yes, sir.
So you took the staircase down, and then we came out with a roughly 18 by 18 additional deck, correct?
Correct. Where your left finger is where the side of the staircase came out to.
Right. So
And
we did.
we shifted that to, if you're standing with your back to the lake, we shifted it to the left.
So the staircase you're saying was in this space here originally, so there was no additional or reduction, because you're showing 5 feet 6 inches of side yard setback to the Valgorski side. That didn't change from where the staircase was?
The setback to the Rissmeyers did not change. The setback to the Valagorskis would have been the same as it were with the original deck, but now simply continuing on with that setback closer towards the lake.
Right, but what happened is this whole space here
was filled in,
and that changed that's why you're here for the variance tonight.
Yes, sir.
Your original approval from 2011 didn't have that anyway.
Correct, because there wasn't a survey done at the time, which would have required a variance because of the proximity to the Valagorski's home. That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood the whole expiration of the original approvals as it related to this, but I think I do now, so.
Okay.
Any further questions from our board? Hearing none.
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
The deck extension, the new deck that's in question here, was that permitted or not, or has it been permitted?
No and no. That was my lack of education, thinking that because I was not altering the setbacks from the left or the right or to the lake, and I was reconfiguring that was falling underneath the original permit. When I received the letter in the mail after it was built stating that I should have gotten a permit for that, that's when this process began with Mark and the town to first A, get a survey, and then B, once the survey was complete, to go through this process to resolve the situation. And unfortunately enough, it's been 2 years.
Many things have become delayed over the last 2 years of our collective experience.
The survey folks were wonderful, but it was just a long period of time.
Yes. Okay.
John?
I don't have anything to say, Phil.
Okay. All right then. Well, we will open the hearing to public comment at this time. I'm assuming that the Rissmeyers would like to speak to it. I see Mrs. Rissmeyer has raised a paw. So kindly begin.
Okay, so I've jotted some notes down so that I move as quickly as possible. It's late. But a little background and we can tell you what was there before. The cottage that's now 201 West Wakefield Boulevard was purchased by ancestors in our family about 100 years ago. The ashes of many of our family are buried in the garden. Our extended family still meets there yearly. And then some of us are able to spend a lot of the summer, the early fall, late spring at the cottage as well. As my mother was a teacher, my brother and I were very fortunate to spend our whole summers at the lake every year with my grandmother, where we really developed interest in nature and the environment, sustainability, and which we still work with today. And our entire family and our friends look to the lake to be a sort of serene, natural place. We've enjoyed a good relationship with Lee Tenney and his family. We did provide a letter in support of the variance for the first deck, what is listed as existing deck on the survey, which replaced a terraced lawn. There was a terracing system going down to the lake, and there was a lawn coming out from the basement level. So they put a deck above to come out the level above. Because the vegetation died underneath, it did create some erosion issues. But that was the letter that is referenced in their application. With Lee's dad's weakened health, we were happy to agree to that initial deck. However, we were concerned to see that our initial letter was used in this application as if it was in support of the further developments on the property, none of which we were consulted on. The covered porch on the side of the house was a surprise to us when we arrived one spring. It's extremely close to our property line and the property that we use primarily, the only flat lawn we have, and the garden. The covering of it, which was previously first just a gravel path on the ground, and then the previous owners had put some decking in as they aged, just laid on the ground. But that previous, that previous access was perhaps the same width. I don't really remember exactly. But the covering of the porch basically creates a whole new outside room, and also increases the impervious surface to almost 24%, which is what's listed on the survey. And it also caused erosion on the hill, which the Tenney's contractor alleviated on their property with underground pipes and stone, thus leaving the water to run onto our property. And some people might say, well, it's just forest that you have in front of your house, but it's still an intrusion. The new back deck was also a surprise to us. It is, as described in the realtor's information, a great entertainment deck. It's definitely altered the peaceful environment that we had in the enjoyment of our home. Because our abutting cottage is very small, only 400 square feet, the screened porch at the end of it on the lakeside is used for sleeping. It is now parallel with the new entertainment deck. and it's difficult to get to sleep with lights and noise. This isn't specific to any neighbors. It's just that the house from here going forward is going to have this large outdoor entertainment space that definitely affects our ability to enjoy our property and oftentimes to sleep. It's really difficult for me to sit here and say this. We haven't had any issues with the Tennys personally. We sympathize with Lee's concern for his father and for his teenagers. However, we have to object to granting retrospective variances for completed projects that wouldn't have been permitted initially. If granted, the consequences affect all of us. For 100 years, we've been paying for permits and inspections and taxes with a huge motivation to protect Winstead's natural resources. We've just felt that we have to speak out. Thank you.
Can I ask Mrs. Rissmeyer one question? When you say the entertainment deck, I just want to make sure I know which spot you're talking about. You're not talking about the covered porch, you're talking about the new deck facing the water?
The new deck, correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Rissmeyer, please. You are muted.
Great.
There you go.
And I would actually like to ask if I might share my screen.
Pam?
Yep, you have the permission, yep.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So that is the original house at 203, which is next to our 201 property. Just want to provide that for perspective of where it was. Here is a side view. Here you can see, are you able to see my cursor on the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So here you can see the wood on the ground. I'm not, that doesn't look like 6 feet to me, but who knows? I can't measure it from here. Certainly is a considerably different situation to what is on the house at this point. Moving forward, the Tennys did some improvement. I'm sorry, these photos don't match, of course, but you can see here, there was already an extension here, maybe permitted, I'm not sure. But still the same thing. And we began to, between both of us, themselves and us, we began to increase some vegetation there. You can't see it, but here's the garden here. And so it's very, very close, these two properties. For reference, here's a satellite view from 2016. So just a few years back. Here you can see the front deck by the lake. I'll call it a front deck moving forward. This is what we did provide a letter for in support. I believe it did need a variance, but I don't have the permits in front of me. Otherwise, I'm not sure we would have needed to provide a letter of support. We provided that. We were trying to be good neighbors. We were, we wanted them to be able to enjoy their space. I will admit candidly, once we heard the noise coming from that to our very small cottage to the sleeping quarters, that was already really a substantial concern. But we had provided that letter and it was permitted, and that was that. Since then, other construction happened, as you can see here. This is 2001. I'm not sure how you can get a permit for one thing and then not know you need permits for others. And I also am concerned about the description of these as remediation to situations versus significant additional construction. You can see here when it was framed out, here's how far out the side sticks from the covered porch on the side. And of course, here's the large new deck. It does feature very prominently in the realtor's description. At this point, I assume the home is pending, may change hands. Again, we do not have an issue per se with any given neighbor. It is how we want to use our property, how we have used our property, and what is meant to our family. So looking at a couple of these images in particular, again, I'm not up there at this point. I am currently in Arlington, Virginia. Our home doesn't even have hot water. So we would not be there in January. Here's the side porch. This is substantially different than lifting wood off the ground. And it is covered porch. It is a new space. Here is the garden space right here. It is practically in our garden. And I think what our real objection is not to the construction per se, but what the construction becomes. It has changed the character of the home. These are appealing outdoor spaces. If I lived there, I would enjoy them. I do not live there. So in the morning when someone doesn't want to bother the rest of the family, they'll take a cell phone call out there very loudly, which we hear quite clearly in the house. When you're gardening and there's someone out on the porch chatting away on the phone, we're not enjoying a garden, which, as my sister commented, is where we have scattered the ashes of many family members going back to my great-grandparents. Here is, I wanted to show this top view. You can see a car and where it's parked. I did want to provide this image because I think it's essential to look at access to the home. If there's a concern about access to the home, building a 40-foot long side porch, covered porch, is not the most expeditious way to enter the envelope. And it's certainly without a variance and also the added covered area. Certainly access could have been had through the building. I would understand it requires changes, but since the home had been gutted, changes had already happened. It could have been part of the original consideration if it truly was a need. And I'm sorry, I'm actually recovering from COVID at this point, so hopefully my voice doesn't give out. I wanted to show this view here, which is the front of the house. Here is the quote, porch, which was built for safety reasons. But to me, a porch does not need to be over 400 square feet or in that range. I believe we count stairs as part of surface area. And you can see right beside it our red cottage. You can see here the screened in area. This is where I grew up sleeping. This is where my children have grown up sleeping, and hopefully my grandchildren will grow up sleeping. When people are on the outside and they're not aware of people sleeping, I do not think anybody's doing anything intentionally. But when all these lights are on and people are out here and have had a couple glasses of wine, it gets quite loud. And for children who might go to bed at 8 or 9, 1 o'clock is pretty late. Again, not specific to anyone, but whoever purchases the house this time and in the future, it will be the same issue because it is a big, beautiful outdoor entertaining space. I absolutely admit that. But its impact on us is also something that I think is pretty inescapable. Here is a side view of the quote, safety porch to give access down to the stone walkway. I believe that in the drawings provided, that porch is probably close to 400 on its own, so almost the same as the living area in our cottage, which I don't begrudge them. We haven't changed our cottage. It was built in 1900 or thereabouts. We love it the way it is. And here's the other porch. So as you can see, this pushes this down further towards the lake and more the sound here. Additionally, all the trees have been cleared from the property, so there is no sound buffer from vegetation. There's nothing to break the sound, unfortunately, from the road and the lake, which is not, making the property owner, but certainly there's nothing, there's one tree standing at this point, and the initial branches are higher up. So there's no sound break or buffer or audible changes. And I did also just want to bring up the discussion of plots and surveys. Here is our survey from 1946. You will see that there's a 5-foot offset at the top of the plot, a 5-foot offset at the cottage marked by an iron pin and an iron pipe at the base of the property line. When we look at the survey, it does cause us concern that there's no pin found, there's no pipe found, and if I draw the mark from the top here and maintain a 5-foot buffer at the house, the line actually would intercept at the retaining wall, which certainly makes sense. I don't know why someone would end their retaining wall 10 feet from the edge of the property. Now, our 1946 survey may be wrong. That's all we have. This is not something, frankly, I didn't know about any of this till a couple of days ago. We had been really concerned with what was happening, but we thought it was all permitted and felt there was nothing we could do. I'm shocked to hear of really that all this has been pending out there. So anyway, we'll have to obviously get our own survey and determine all of this, but as I say, there is a pin, and so that makes the covered porch even closer to our property, and into the garden space, which is right here. So I guess I just want to echo my sister's comments. My mother's 83 years old. This is the week we get to bring her there. She has absolutely, we have to give her our arm and help her everywhere across the lawn. It is not even, Winstead around the lake is not an easy place for an old person. We certainly sympathize with that issue, but the variance is to the property, not to a given individual. And as the property may change hands, having these permanent fixtures there, where a temporary ramp could have been constructed or a different entry point could have been constructed for the side porch issue, if that's truly a safety issue, and certainly for the deck, I just can't see how going to almost 800 or maybe more than 800 square feet of decking is something that really can be allowed. Because again, our consideration and our concern, we were not consulted about any of these, is that it has substantially changed the character of the house and the way the home is used, and it encourages things that will be very disruptive to our home that we've, as we say, we've had for almost 100 years in the family, and we intend to continue staying there. We love Winstead. I have to say, our kids, bringing them up there when we only recently even got internet, it's been this place where they connect with their cousins, where we connect with family and other members of our family that we never see there's no other meeting space. And so this is really important to us. And I just urge you to really consider this. Again, we do want to say we're completely sympathetic to the concerns and so forth, but our concerns we really want to state them. And unfortunately, if we had been consulted on any of this at an earlier date, none of this would have happened, because we would have said so. These projects emerged when we weren't even there, because again, the properties are not such that we would ever be there those earlier times. So I guess I'll just say if there's any questions, but we would strongly speak against both the variances for the side porch, any allowance for the impermeable additional space, and for the special exception for the porch on the front of the house. It's unfortunate they've been built, and I certainly unfortunate if it may represent a financial hardship to remove them and bring the home into compliance. But I think to do anything else would really be, really be removing the value of the home that we've cherished. So allowing them is really at the expense of our property. And so we have to speak it out. And I'll
Thank you, sir.
stop sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this application? Hearing none, I will close the public comment section. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ismail.
Sorry, I was just going to comment. I thought Lee Tenney was in the waiting room. I wanted to make sure he did have a chance to get in.
Oh, no, he's back.
I apologize. I got kicked out of my internet.
Very good. Well, we're at
also that the other people that are here are not having technical issues trying to speak up. So just maybe give them another second.
True. I'm assuming Mrs. V might be Ms. Valagorski.
They may not want to be identified, and they need not identify themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and I've prompted each to unmute, or there's
Okay.
3 here actually, and they may not want to speak and nor identify themselves. So One has unmuted. I'm not sure if that individual is interested in speaking. If so, you can now.
Sure, yes, it is, this is Steve and Gail Valagorski, neighbors on the other side of the Tennys. We're here just, kind of observing and listening, but we don't actually have any specific comments on the situation.
Okay, thank you.
I
All
do
right,
have
then.
one. I do have one question for Mr. Tenney, if possible.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
When all of the remodeling and so forth that has been done to this place, is this something that you have done or have had done, or is this something that was done before you purchased it?
When we purchased it, when you saw the original picture where it had a sunroom or a planting room in the front, when we purchased it, we did completely reface, re-roof, rewire, replumbed, did virtually everything, less taking it down completely to the studs. We never altered the footprint of the house. We didn't go up, we didn't go back, we didn't go sideways because we wanted to maintain the character of the 1904 house that it was. We did, we simply updated it in terms of insulation, the appropriate mechanicals, and all of the wiring. And then what we did was we actually took square footage away from the house by removing that front, I'll call it a flower potting area, for lack of a better term, and put the original deck on there.
And we might not even have jurisdiction over this, but am I to assume then that everything was permitted at that point, or was work done without the permits?
That was completely permitted with Mark coming into the house, giving, looking at the house, looking at the permits, looking at the permits after the fact, and looking at the end product after the fact. That was all completely permitted, from mechanicals to the addition of a new bathroom for my mother at the time because she couldn't walk upstairs.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And to clarify, that was 2011, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so we have closed the public comment portion of the hearing. Mr. Tenney, you have the last word if you still have anything you'd like to add.
The only thing that I'll add is I'm not a surveyor. I did not conduct the survey. That survey was conducted by a licensed surveyor in the town of Winchester. Unfortunately enough, with respect to the surveys on Vaughn's Lane, or for the houses that reside on Vaughn's Lane, they all were predicated initially with pins, as was discussed. This is prior to my arrival. The first survey that was done for an up-to-date survey was done by the last house on the end of Vaughn's Lane, Brian O'Hearn. And when Brian did his survey, or had his survey done, that actually shifted into the Valagorski's property, which either Steve or Gail could respond to if they would like to. As such, when the Valagorskis had their survey done, they didn't do it off of where the surveyor, that is, didn't do it off of where the original pins were. They did it off of where the O'Hearns survey was done. So then when I had my survey done, it was done off of the Valagorskis, which was done off of the O'Hearns. And as such, it literally shifted from what I've been told, because I wasn't there in 1903 and I wasn't there prior to 2011, but it did shift universally each of the properties from the east, from the, from left to right. So our property, according to our survey, actually resides roughly 1 foot from the Rissmeyer's property, And immediately next to the end of the covered walkway is our property, including that entire flower bed that was alluded to earlier. And that's depicted by a flag located immediately next to the right side of their house and a pin to the left of their flower bed that they were alluding to earlier.
Thank you.
So it did not go closer to their property in any way, shape, or form.
Very well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
That,
And this is,
with that, I will close. Oh, sorry.
I get, this is Steve Alagorski, regarding what Lee was saying. I believe there was some incorrect surveying done in 1989 on my property, which impacted Lee's property and the Rissmeyer's property right now.
Correct.
But I guess that's another issue.
Yes. Thank you. All right. So we will now close the public hearing on ZBA application 22-5293 variance at 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. Motion to grant a variance from section 2.g.b.ii from zonings of the zoning regulations for application number 21-52944 for a 28.4 foot easterly side yard setback variance, 8.8% impervious surface coverage variance for a 46.6 foot by 6 foot covered porch and a 29.4 foot westerly side yard variance for a 18.6 foot by 13 foot by 4.5 feet by 5.5 feet by 4.5 feet by 18.7 feet by 18.5 deck with a 3.8 foot and 13.3 foot set of steps as per the drawings permitted for the property located at 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. The motion so made. Is there a second?
Second.
On Mr. Rissmeyer, is your question about the wording of the, we can't take questions. I'm sorry. No, it's, so anyway, any discussion on the motion? Mr. Dew?
It just sounds like a mess to me.
Well,
it is a complicated mess, that's for sure.
so I'll throw a few thoughts out to the board.
Yeah.
Wait 1 second.
We've lost Mr. Tenney.
We've lost John.
Oh.
There he is.
No, not John. Let's give him a couple minutes in case he needs to zoom back in. If you want to recess for 10 minutes, if anyone needs a bathroom break, I can give John a call, and if I gotta walk him through calling in. That's why, because
Well,
I'd rather, I think it's important for, before your discussions begin, make sure that
Yes,
you,
well,
otherwise you'd have
indeed.
to.
Point of order.
Yes, Mr. English.
I am unfortunately going to have to excuse myself if this is going to keep prolonging. So I may have to remove myself, and you may need to see Mr. Carter for the duration of this. Because I unlike the rest of us, I work overnights. So
Right.
I have to remove myself if this goes beyond like 9:45.
Okay.
Unfortunately, 10 o'clock at the latest. I mean, the latest.
Yes.
And I want to be fair to everybody too. So.
The fishing is outstanding out at Altus Lugert right now.
Where?
Altus Lugert, where Aubrey used to do a lot of work. It's a magnificent lake in a place called Quartz Mountain in the middle of southern Oklahoma.
Aha.
Absolutely magnificent. They remember you well, Aubrey.
Well, it's good to know.
Are we gonna take a recess then? Is that the plan?
Well, I was just kind of dragging things out to see if John could pop back in, but what happens if someone has to be swapped out in the middle of the hearing? Given that Mr. Carter has sat in the meeting through its entire course, it would be okay to, would it be within the rules to approve him? Or to seat him at this point?
Pam, can you
Yeah.
answer that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
However, if John doesn't get back, we may need to seat Dave.
Anyway.
For John's
Seat me
spot.
twice. Seat me twice. We're in the discussion aspect of the meeting, correct?
Not yet,
Or
because
the-
you gotta make a decision
yet.
because you don't wanna,
We'd have to seat you first, Dave, before we can either seat you or, I mean, that's
Does
an option.
anybody want to try to get a hold of John by telephone and see what's going on, if there's a problem here?
yeah, I was looking for his phone number and I couldn't find it right away and I was muted. That's why I don't know what you wanna do.
Let me see if I can reach him.
I can call
Okay.
It's ringing.
him. All right.
I'm gonna mute you, Ron, just so that we don't. Well, no, I really shouldn't. Ron, you gotta unmute yourself. So I'm giving you a prompt and just accept it.
You're still muted, Ron.
I think it's on the top with your iPad, isn't it?
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
He is coming back in. He
Okay.
lost it and they're working on getting back in.
Did he need any help or
His wife is working with him.
she is? Okay, well, what better help than that?
All right, Aubrey, why don't you head out and on the interim,
With approval from the chairman, or if there's objection or not.
I have no problems with letting you take off, and as we said, since Mr. Carter has certainly heard all of the testimony and has had his packet, et cetera.
And again, my apologies to everybody listening and all for having to excuse myself from this time here, but unfortunately, it's because of time restraints here.
Got to do the job.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Roger that.
Might I just say, Aubrey, before you take off, let's
Yes,
make
sir.
sure John gets back in. Because if you leave and John doesn't get back in,
I'll give it a few more minutes here.
right,
Okay.
we'd be down to 4 at that point if John doesn't get back in.
Yes. The implication of that for any of you who aren't unfamiliar or didn't remember from the beginning of the meeting, if we have only 4 members seated for a hearing, to get the motion approved, it has to be a unanimous approval. And in normal circumstances, when faced with a 4-person vote, the applicant has the option to continue their hearing until the next meeting, and where there will be presumably a chance for 5 people to be seated at the hearing. So I don't know what we, if we were forced to go to 4, I don't know quite what we would do in that circumstance.
I think we'd want to, if that were to happen, Phil, we'd want to seat Dave and move into discussion and take the vote before Aubrey goes, and without John, because I don't think
that's probably the best thing to do in that case.
Yeah, 4 going down to 4 could create certain some issues.
Yes, I would rather not do that. Well, okay, if with a nod from staff that it is appropriate to do this shift in the middle, I will unseat Don Pollock for the duration of this hearing and seat Mr. Carter in his place. So
very good.
Resuming, the motion is open on for our discussion. Is there any comment from the board? What?
Just to hit. Go ahead.
I was going to just so part of the hardship talks about the safety of what he's built here, and frankly, when I saw the photo of the side porch, it is a lot more than a walkway to keep people dry from walking in. It's a very nice new living space, and I think that John's back. So Pam, does John stay out at this point since we started discussion, or do we repeat the discussion, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, there really hasn't been any discussion yet.
Okay.
And because Aubrey's gotta go.
Okay, well then, Aubrey, why don't we discharge you now? That
we're married.
That John is back, and David is now seated. You're back. Yes.
Okay, I'm gone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very
much. Good night, folks.
Good night, Aubrey. And I'll repeat what little discussion I started. So, John, we're talking about the case was made that a lot of these improvements were done for safety issues specifically.
Right.
And for me, it's kind of changed a little bit when I saw that side porch, which is really more than a walking path or a walking porch. It's a nice living space that clearly, as we heard testimony, people can hang out there and have various conversations and things like that. And clearly the large deck on the front of the house, there were alternatives to repairing a staircase issue as opposed to building this. And it's a beautiful space, but this large space. So
yeah, I saw all those pictures, Paul, from Mr. Rismeyer, and then I got disconnected, and so I did see that, and I did hear him and his wife, both of them, speak.
So I'm having some challenges with that, as I guess my feelings that I'll put out for the board.
Well, in my opinion, after hearing everything and seeing the facility, I think there could be some type of an alternative, and I do have to say that I'm more on the Rismeyer side. We have to consider them. It's just one of those situations. We just can't have people keep building decks, and there's a deck on one side, there's a deck over there, and there's a deck down by the water. I think it's a little bit too much.
Go ahead, Ron.
I have to agree with it. It's a property of decks, basically. It's a tough site. There's no doubt about that. But I think a little more consideration should have been put into it and thought prior to work being done.
Mr. Carter?
Like Ronnie just said, regardless we can only take in and vote on what's in our purview. We can't extend back and forth. But when the public input comes out and we get all this outside information on the history and the permitting and what was and what could have been, and okay, we still have to vote on what is in our purview on that sheet that we got tonight. And the stairs, okay, but since all the renovation was done in
Can't lose. Come on, Dave, hang in there.
Yeah, hang in there.
Dave, you're frozen.
Jeez.
No.
Give it a moment.
No. Okay. No.
Dave will have to dial
So
back.
have no more discussion.
No, right, we can't talk anymore.
And wait and see if if he logs back in or phones back in, but have no more discussion.
Yes.
And for the record, the time is 9:46.
Okay. Oh.
So just for folks on the call, it's appropriate to wait, I would say 10 minutes, have no discussion. And, let it be considered a recess. If
Yes.
after 9:56, then you can start thinking about continuing.
What to do next, how to proceed.
Yeah. You
Well,
would,
if anyone does need to stretch their legs or visit the restroom, then you have about 8 minutes.
So we are in recess, yes?
We are in recess.
Okay.
Okay.
We will reconvene at 5:56 or 9:56, excuse me.
Hi, Dave, are you there?
Unbelievable. Yeah,
So no one said a word. Once you dropped, you were fuzzing out. You were in the middle of speaking. And so they convened until 9:56. So we're about 6 minutes away from reconvening. They recessed at 9:46.
okay. I think I was talking about the
Wait
side.
1 second. They're not back, Dave. So just give a moment for everyone to rejoin the meeting, and I'll let you know. I am guessing you're phoning in.
Where's my face?
I don't see you. Here, let me give you a prompt to ask you to start your video.
Yeah.
There you are. So
what a time to be alive.
Yeah, so Paul's still not back. So hold on 1 second, just so that
I had a power spike, and what happens is everything shuts down, the generator comes on, the power comes back on, the generator shuts off, and I've got to reset everything.
Oh
you
dear.
did that fast then.
Living in the woods.
Yes. All right, I guess we're all set finally.
Yes.
Okay, we good? All right.
Well, we can excuse
ahead.
me, we will come back from our recess a bit early since we are all here. We reconvene at 9:51 p.m. Mr. Carter, please.
Okay, I think I was talking about the walkway, so to speak, on the Rismeyer side of the property. That's where my problem lies, and that's what I've got to say.
All right. Any further comments from our board?
The only last thing I wanted to address is I have to agree with Ronnie and Dave. And also, I just think there's just too many decks on this property, and what happened with Mr. Rismeyer, I could see his side. It is very close to his line, and if we had built another giant deck out there, it's not going to be appropriate for them.
Yeah. My only comment is that I have a fundamental issue with issuing retrospective approvals of applications. In other words, something built without permit that then comes before us to beg for a permit because it's already built. And I don't care. So anyway, that's my view. Any further comments? In that case, I'll call the vote on the variance application 22-5293, 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. The motion is open. And so please signify your approval by voting yay, nay, opposed,
nay,
abstentions. John, are
I'm
you
opposed.
abstaining?
I'm opposed.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Tenney, you do not have your project.
Okay,
Now,
so
moving on
to the special exception.
Moving on to the voting on the special exception, which is 22-5294 for the deck exceeding 400 square feet.
You want to open this public hearing and allow.
Okay, all right. I thought well, never mind.
Allow comment, right?
Yes. Okay, so we're opening special exception application number 22-5294 for 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. Comment on that specific application, which is covered, the description and text of that is covered within the documentation for the variances, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. The special
I don't
exception
have
for the deck exceeding 400 square feet. So it's for the decking on the front of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is the new deck as defined.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, because that's not 400 square feet on its own, right?
No, but
Correct.
it's in addition to the existing deck.
It's all the decks being above 400.
Yeah, you're limited to 400 square feet on
Right.
one property.
Mr. Rissmeyer has his hand up.
But
Yes.
why don't you allow the applicant to proceed
Yes.
first?
So,
Right, the applicant has to proceed.
Yes, before,
I
prior
just,
to,
I just wanted to restate that the original deck that was applied for and granted a permit was in excess of 400 feet. It was actually 465 feet to be exact, 31 by 15. And that was approved with side and front variances or side and front setbacks by the town with permit on file at the town hall.
okay. Mr. Rissmeyer, please.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that our previous conversation and so forth and describing and providing the photos and so forth is provided, is considered as part of this consideration. I don't want to take everyone's time and go back through it, but, and I do want to just reiterate that yes, we provided a letter for that initial deck, which already was in excess of 400 square feet. The additional deck is pretty much close to 400 square feet too. When if you count for the steps, which you should count for the steps. So if you account for the steps, it's pretty close to 400 square feet for that separate additional deck that was built. So we're approaching 800 square feet of decking at this point. So I just want to make that that statement, and anyone wants to do the math. And Mr. Chairman, I'd ask if you correct me if I'm wrong. Steps and landings are considered part of the measurement of square footage, correct?
I'm going to defer to Pam on that question.
No.
No, actually,
No.
the stairs are usually counted as a separate addition, as separately. When you look at town regulations, their stairs are included with, where am I? I'm sorry.
and while
I have
he's
those.
looking for what he's looking for, Mr. Rissmeyer, if you would, email me all of the documents that you shared this evening.
Okay, I will do that.
And what you're asking for is that they are included in part of the record for both applications. Just so that it's clear, it includes the historical photographs, your own site plan, your own survey, and I believe you shared images from Google as well as realtor.com. Is that correct? Have I summarized the documents from the first application that you want to be included and made part of this record?
Yes. May I actually excerpt part of the video from YouTube and send that to you? That'll have the complete photo record and my audit.
No,
audit.
I need the documents and an
Okay.
attachment.
Gotcha. I will do that.
So,
So this,
just to clarify,
on the bottom deck is 342 square feet if you do not include the steps. Actually, probably more if you add the 5x5 and 4.5 protrusion.
Yes, it comes out to 367 square feet.
Right. So not quite 400, but that's in addition to an existing deck that was in excess of 400. So again, close to 800 square feet.
okay. Any further comments? And hearing none, we will, I will close the public hearing portion of special exception application 22-5294, 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. And here we go. A motion to approve a special exception per section 2.G.D.IV.F for the zoning regulations of application number 21-5294 for a deck exceeding 400 square feet as per the plan submitted at 203 West Wakefield Boulevard. Motion so made. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dew. Any further discussion on our part? No? Well, hearing none, we will call the vote. All in favor of the motion, please signify. All opposed? All abstain? There again. I'm sorry, you do not have your project, Mr. Timmy. Okay, now, moving on. The last item on our agenda is Zoning Board of Appeals, application 22-5295 for a variance at 248 Perch Rock Trail. The applicants have requested a continuance to our next meeting on February 22nd. Is that correct?
February 22nd, yes, and it will very likely be in person.
Okay. So I make a motion that we continue this hearing until our February 22nd meeting, 22. May I have a second?
Second.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Signify. Thank you. All right, so that finishes our agenda. We have approval of minutes for December 28th. Are there any corrections of fact to the minutes as provided? And
None.
hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Pam mentioned in a late email today that we were supposed to have had board elections back in December, or board officer not elections back in December. But especially given that Aubrey has had to leave, I think that we should set election of officers for 2022 at our next meeting, and simply fudge the fact that we'll be 2 months late, according to our bylaws.
Now, I'm not gonna be here for the next 2 months.
Oh, that's right, you're not. Oi.
I think we should try to vote on it tonight.
Well, if they're, well, let's put it this way.
Because we'll have missing people every time, I think, Phil.
That's true. That's true. It might be very difficult. If anyone would like to take over being chair, I would happily step aside.
I would like to make a motion for Paul Moreno for chair if possible, if he would accept it.
I would accept that.
I'll second that.
Excellent.
I'll third that.
Very good. Yes, I will. I happily step aside to your leadership, Mr. Marino.
I'll be proud to follow in your footsteps, Phil.
Don't follow too closely, or you're
I'm not ever going to wear a mask on a Zoom meeting. I will.
You know, you don't want the nightmares that would happen if you were looking into this.
I doubt that.
Never mind. Never mind. Anyway, so, okay, well, who shall be our vice chair then?
Who would like to be our vice chair?
That's another way to approaching it.
I still plan to be secretary. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's make a motion that John Pollock continue as secretary.
Right.
Second.
Call the vote.
I am in favor.
You're still your
all
meeting.
in favor. All opposed.
How about Aubrey
If
as
you are all,
vice
if you
chair?
are all if you're all willing, I'm willing to serve as vice chair.
There you go. That's a good idea.
Right. I agree.
And
I
so
move that Philip
I make
Allen
a motion.
vice chair.
I second that.
all in favor.
Aye.
All opposed, all abstained, yada, yada. Okay, so we have officers for 22.
Very good.
We are in compliance with our,
We have-
our own bylaws.
Did Ronnie go to the town hall and take the oath?
For election of officers, seated and alternate members can vote for officers. And no, that hasn't gone through Board of Selectmen yet, apparently.
Okay.
That I've been
It will.
advised. I haven't
will.
been advised yet. Yeah, I know it's working, so.
Yeah.
And I'm
but
happy
things are-
right where I am. I want to be where I am right now.
I'll be thinking about it come Tuesday morning.
Roger that.
Okay. Any correspondence that we need to discuss?
No.
Okay. Then a motion to adjourn is appropriate.
So
moved.
made.
Second? I'll second. All approved.
Yeah.
Opposed? Oh, we lost
Excellent.
John again.
No,
Yeah,
he's-
okay, it's okay,
John's
yes. Great.
Okay, well, we just voted on adjourning. Are you in favor?
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you very, very much for your patience tonight. And we will see you all next month when Mr. Marino convenes us.
And hopefully we'll be doing that in person.
Right.
I'm less
Good night,
excited
all.
about that than some,
night.
but
Good night, everybody.
you know,
Good night,
good night
everybody.
all.
Take
I'll
care.
see you tomorrow, Pam.
Yes, yep, okay.
Okay, good night.